Welcome to the Vision and Purpose podcast, where we dive deep into the lives of incredible people who have made a mark on the world. Join us as we explore the journeys, stories, and passions of individuals who have achieved extraordinary feats, shattered barriers, and inspired us all. And now your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Hello, and welcome to Vision and Purpose Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, and today I am super excited to welcome Dr. Zanthia Reddish to the show. Dr. Reddish, affectionately known as Dr. Z, the Ball Mom Doc, is an educational consultant, speaker, certified life coach, and author, driven by her passion to utilize her God-given gifts for teaching, learning, and empowering others. With a background in high school English teaching and nearly 2 decades as a school principal, she is the CEO and founder of Impoweredd Educational Consulting, drawing from her expertise in educational administration and athlete management. Dr. Z specializes in providing athlete life coaching to parents of student athletes, leveraging her experience as an NBA mom. Her book, Alley-Oop, The Ultimate Assist for Parents of Athletes, earned her an Author All-Star Award and offers strategies for parental positioning and placement for raising champions on and off the court and field. And I am super excited to welcome my guest, Dr. Z. Welcome, welcome, and welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks
Absolutely. So I am super excited that you're here with us today. We have a lot to talk about. Oh my goodness. You are doing it all.
Oh, I'm trying.
And
but
I
God
love
will
it.
say that I buried my gifts.
I know that's right. I love it. I love it. And so, I really want you to start by just taking us through the journey that led you to creating Impoweredd Consulting. How did you get there? What were some of those pivotal moments that said, hey, I need to do this? There's a gap in the marketplace and I need to fill it.
Absolutely. So, this started quite a while ago, actually. I started Empowered back in 2018 when my oldest was a senior in high school. And at that time, he had been highly recruited, and we had just been living his basketball life for a long time. And one of the things that I noticed was that when I wanted to think about what I was going to do, either next, but also when I had questions, like, I don't know, like, is this real? Should I do this? Has this happened to you? I didn't always have someone I could pick up the phone and ask. Now, let me be clear. There's plenty of folks with opinions, okay? But I'm talking about the kinds of opinions where they've been where I'm trying to go. I only had access to people who were either at the level that I was or who had no clue what I was talking about in terms of the journey that my children were preparing to take. So that being said, at that time, I had gone back to school and gotten some additional schooling around athlete management, because at that time I knew that my son was on the trajectory to be a professional athlete. And I wanted to know what that would mean, what I could do to be able to assist him along that journey. And I didn't really plan to be his agent, but I did plan to sit at the table and make sure that he got everything he needed to get. So anyway, I started to think about what I was going to do after I transitioned from being a principal, and it led me to this place where we started this consulting firm where we talk with parents and help parents navigate the processes. There's systems, the basketball is a system. The youth sports is a system, the school system. So I try to take the experience that I had as a school principal and then also as a parent, and I was also running our AAU program, taking all of those skills and marrying them together and being the answer to the problems that we had. My husband and I, as we were going through the process, just, who do you call when you have questions about programming? Who do you call when your child is acting a certain way and you're not really sure what to do, or when you're getting opportunities or calls from people that you haven't been able to vet and don't know who to trust? So we're those people now.
I love that, and that speaks to, as I said, seeing a gap in the marketplace and filling it. That's what that's about. And I love that. That's how we create what we want to see. And so, and let me add, so is it only student athletes that look like they're on the trajectory for professional sports?
Yeah, no. So actually, it's not just for those.
Okay.
So when I started out with looking at all sports, okay, just all sports. But my focus obviously is on basketball. And we start in fifth grade and we would go all the way up through the pros. And recently, actually at the top of 2024, we decided to scale it back to focus specifically on fifth through eighth grade. Now, some children are getting identified that early. My son was blessed enough to get identified in sixth grade.
Wow.
But a lot of times you're identified and maybe stay on that trajectory and maybe you don't. Just depends on the different aspects that the scouts are looking for. But you don't necessarily have to be an elite athlete because sometimes you just don't know. But the reality is parents are still going to have those questions. Your children may just love the sport, but you may not have played. And even if you did play, it's so different than it was, back in the day. It's important to be able to answer those questions. So no, it's actually, we started to focus specifically on fifth through eighth grade basketball because one, we knew that that's when it started for us. But two, as I mentioned, I have been doing it all the way up through the pros, but most of my clients will come from the high school, more like 11th and 12th grades. Most of them didn't have maybe scholarship opportunities that they were interested in, and they needed my help to be able to help them figure out what they needed to do and then also connect them accordingly. Well, the challenge with that was that sometimes, actually most of the time, the students weren't prepared. And that's why we thought we have to go back to a lot earlier. I have to get in front instead of behind them and make sure that I can position them accordingly so that if they get to 10th or 11th grade and they find out they are on the trajectory to either go to play school at the collegiate level or to become a professional, they are prepared and in position to do so. So that's why we're focusing more on the middle levels now.
And I love that because as an elementary principal myself, I definitely see my upper elementary and sometimes even lower than that. But the students who are really gung-ho about those extracurricular sports and are very serious about it. So I can definitely see how that younger age would benefit them. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yep. It's all about the transition.
It is, absolutely. So let's talk about your book, Alley-oop. I love that. So when, because this is fairly new for you, right? This book is fairly new, right? Just released. So let's talk about it. What can the individual picking up your book really expect? What takeaways can they expect from that?
So here's the book. Super proud of this cover. So I wrote the first edition of this book back in 2021 during the pandemic. And the book it's a resource for parents. It's a guide. It talks about all the things that go along with this life, if I would. It talks about how parents need to conduct themselves based on some lessons that I learned very up close and personally. It talks about the different people that you might encounter along the journey and how to interact with them. It talks about how to choose the right program or school for your child. It talks about, I have two sons, one who's playing in the NBA and the other one who is playing at the Division I level for college. And they have very different paths. But what do you do when maybe one student is really knocking it out of the park and has a lot of access? Like Cameron, my older one, I didn't have to go searching. People looked for us. Whereas with Aaron, who was a graduate of the 2021 class in the height of COVID, it looked very different for him. And so people weren't looking. I had to make sure that he was on the right circuit to get the exposure that he needs. So those kinds of things are in there. What do you do? How do you keep your children from being rivals as opposed to supporting one another? How do you keep the game fun? Things like that. It's just so many things. What do you do about social media? What do you do about some of the decisions you're going to have to make? What about some of the sacrifices, the money, the time, all those things? It's all in the book. It's all in the book, and I put it in here so that I called it alley oop, because when you look at an alley oop, it's perfectly thrown to you. The ball is perfectly thrown, and you're in position for the slam dunk. And hopefully for a win, or you make the basket or whatever. So this is it's really, really about parenting. People think is it basketball? It's not really about basketball. It's about the specific and intentional decisions we make as parents to position our children to meet their goals. And for my children, it happened to be around the ball.
Exactly. I love it. So what's the core mission of Impoweredd? How do you envision it evolving over the next 5 or so years?
So the mission is ultimately to help other families meet their goals. And so we do that with preparation. I'm really everything about Impoweredd is about getting ready. And it's not just a play on my name with the whole red, because we love our red glasses. Yes. So it's not just that, but it's also just about being ready. If you have the information, when you know better, you can do better. Right. And so my goal is to help families through their transitions. And it's interesting because Impoweredd actually has 3 arms now. It's grown, right? So I have this alley book where I work with our families of athletes and help coach them through their transitions, specifically looking at 5th into 6th, 8th into 9th, and then we can talk about whatever happens after that. But then also there's another arm of the business which works with you and me. I actually now am doing consulting with schools. I offer a program that I've coined called Friend Support, where I go and I provide principal coaching and mentoring to new and novice principals here in the Atlanta area. So that's been amazing as well. So I have a book that goes along with that as well that's coming out. And then there's another arm that deals with women who are in transition. And what I mean by transition is people who are going from one place to another. For me in the book, and there's another book that goes along with that. It's called Adapt Her. In that book, I talk a lot about my transition from being a mom to an empty nester. It hit me in a way I didn't expect. That's a whole nother podcast. We'll talk about that on another episode, but that was different. So there's that arm that, sometimes women are going maybe a career change, maybe the relationship has changed. Well, I realized that when I went through that season of healing for that, there was a process that I went through, and I've documented in this book, and I coach women through those transitions as well. So really, Impoweredd is about helping people transition and grow through life. So with the support of someone else. So
I love it. I love that. So as a leader, what are some of your key principles or values that guide your management style?
Well, I believe in a few things. One of the most important things for me has been my authenticity. Okay. So I wasn't always comfortable and safe in walking in that. And I learned over the years that was my superpower. And I didn't know it. And it started to really manifest, not just in Impoweredd, but as I go into other settings and as the business has grown, that's the key thing that people come back and talk to me about. It's me showing up as me. And so I want to definitely encourage everyone to be themselves in their leadership. I think that's what helps us connect with our families. That's what helps us connect with our subordinates, our children. And it's what helps us to be able to do our job really effectively. So I believe in showing up as your authentic self. But I also believe in creating a culture of care where It's one of the reasons why I think I had a successful experience in my almost 20 years of being an elementary principal. It's 20 years. I absolutely loved every day of it, love little people, but really love being able to make a difference along the way. And I was able to do that by showing up as my authentic self and developing those relationships. And that's kind of the work that I do when I am pushing into schools and providing print support, helping new and novice principals learn how to do that. That's really, I feel like the power is in the people, and that's how we're able to get our work done and able to make a difference. And so really just creating that culture of care, leading with my heart, showing up as myself, I think is what has always made me very successful as a leader. And I pass that along to others to do that as well.
Absolutely. So, how do you foster a culture of innovation and even inclusivity within your organization?
It's interesting when I think about inclusivity. I was in a fairly my first principalship was in a small school district. I'm sorry, a large school district, but it was urban. And then my second school district, where I spent the majority of my experience, was in a suburban school district that was on the cusp of being urban. So it was, yeah, it was urban suburban.
Right.
And so we had a changing demographic. We had all kinds of things happening in the district, and people would move to the area into certain apartment complexes and things like that just to have access to our programs. And in particular, I was so proud of the programs that I was able to have in our building, because we started out as the building where any behaviors, any challenging students or programming challenges were all sent to my building, and I welcomed them with open arms. So
Wow.
for years, I had all of the emotional support students, all of the autistic support students. If a student threw a desk, they would do an emergency IEP and move that child to my building. Like,
Wow.
and so I really had to develop a culture where we really wanted to meet the students where they were and take them where we wanted them to go, where they needed to go. And so we had to have a culture where we welcomed everyone. So inclusivity was extremely important, regardless of who you were, what level you were starting at, what your needs were. We were going to meet you. We're going to meet you where you are and take you where we needed to go. And that has been my philosophy. And it's one of the things like I really pushed through my book and through my trainings, because I was able to earn the support of my staff in that. So I led with my heart. They were not going to break my heart. So they too would make sure that we were meeting those blessings where they were. And we were very, very successful. I had a very blessed time, and actually hated to leave my district. But I transitioned to Atlanta, where my son was drafted to the NBA. And I transitioned with him. He was so young. But believe it or not, the district actually created a position so that I could come back and forth. But it just became a little bit too
Yeah.
much to do it all. But I tried. I tried to hang on for as
Wow.
long as I could.
Yes. And I applaud you for the years that you put in as a principal, because we know that is not an easy feat. So, congratulations on those years served.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little more about professional athletes and some of the biggest challenges that they may face today, especially. And I'm really thinking of that young athlete just drafted, probably either third or fourth year in college. What are some of the biggest challenges that they face?
Well, I would say honestly, the biggest challenges that they face are the things that they don't know, and they're going into a culture that is like none other. Okay, so and on top of that, you're battling time in that they're young, and that's what they don't know what they don't know. So I would say, especially for many of the children who are drafted, and they're getting all this money, and when you start out that way, it's challenging to reel it back. And what I mean by that is they're given a lot, especially those who are at the really elite level. If you're making it to the point where you're being drafted, you were already that guy for a long time. So you're used to getting a certain level of treatment. And it continues when you get in the NBA, except now you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Whereas before you were that guy, now you're a rookie and you have to learn from other people that are there, and you have to be open to that. And sometimes it's not really easy. And I know this because I've talked to many, many moms. That's actually why I started a lot of this work. It's hard. You're trying to tame them. They think they know everything because they're 21, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. They have access to everything. There are zero limits. And if you think about it, I think about the way children develop. We're educators, so we know about child development. And we know that there are certain ages and stages where we expect children to behave a certain way. Well, at that age, those young 20s, they are figuring it out. Most of the time, they're away in college, making all kinds of foolish mistakes and learning sometimes the hard way. But the challenge with being in the league at that time is that you're expected to be an all the way adult, a person who has all of your faculties and makes very informed decisions, and you're constantly under the microscope. So everyone's watching what you do, and you don't know what you're doing, but you have to pretend like you do. And in fact, we as parents are struggling with the fact that you think you know what to do, but you actually don't, because only experience can really help you with certain things. And so there are so many challenges trying to navigate that, fighting the time, helping them to understand how to manage their money. And then also for the women, it's a huge transition. It's one of the reasons why the empty nesting situation really hit me in a way I wasn't expecting, because my roles shifted and I don't think I was ready for it to shift. I said, wait, I don't like this. I'm going to get off this ride. And so I had to readjust and relearn some things. And that was a challenge, as many of us face when we're going through different transitions.
Absolutely. And, and I can imagine, and you mentioned, at that young age, probably more money than they've seen at once anyway. How big is financial management in what you do? Is that a part of your consulting and coaching for the parents as well as the athlete?
So one of the things, first of all, let me answer your first question. How important? Extremely, very, very important, because it's what drives a lot of young people. And now, in fact, I'm doing some work around NIL, the name, image, and likeness. The information has come down around that, and how competitive it is for schools to even get young folks to come to college. And everyone wants something. I was just talking to a coach yesterday, and he was like, everyone wants something, Dr. Z. Like, so we have to make sure that our program is as inviting and enticing as the other program, or we're going to lose the really strong recruits. But it all comes together, and we have to try to teach them about the financial literacy when there are so many other things they have to focus on. It becomes a real challenge. So one of the things we do at Impoweredd is we help the families not just create the goals. We create goals with them, but we help them to actually implement the goals, because here the actual work toward the goals. Here's the challenge. A lot of times there's a lot of information out there. We're living in the AI age where, you can get information anywhere. Just talk it into Siri or to anything else. The challenge is being able to apply it. And one of the things that we're able to do is we not only help you apply it, we help by connecting you to the resources that you need in your community to meet your goals. So thinking around financial literacy, and this is a big one, we have several partners, affiliates that we vetted that we've already gone through the process. So when you have those questions like, well, who do you trust or who do you ask? And I'm not going to say, hey, go to this firm or go do this, but I will be able to give you multiples that you can look at, and you can interview and you can make those determinations. But I've already given you those types of connections. But that financial literacy piece is huge. Unfortunately, there's not a whole bunch done with it, and you can't teach something as an adult that you haven't learned yourself. So a lot of times our kids are coming in, they have way more money than we've ever imagined having. So how can we teach them how to manage that when we never had that kind of money to manage? So that education piece, it's all education. That's why I consider myself an edupreneur, constantly working on the education piece. But the finances, it's huge. It's everything. They have to learn. And when you're in the professional space, you're also learning your new job. So it's hard to keep an eye on both of those things. So prayerfully, and this is some of the things that we work with our families, we make sure that they have folks on their team. They're going to be able to pay close attention to it, because you need people to know that you're looking.
And that's important. And that's really important. The circle that's around you has to be tight. So
Yes.
I appreciate that. So what advice would you give to that parent whose child is just now entering the world of professional sports?
Well, I would say, honestly, one thing is, I don't know what your faith is, but I absolutely give the same advice that was given to me by Wanda Durant, Kevin Durant's mom. When I first met her, the very first time I met her, I asked her, "Can you give me some advice?" I was so excited. My child's going to Duke and he's going to go into the league. What can you tell me? And she said, "Stay on your face." And I had no idea. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You could not tell. What could I possibly have to stay on my face about, child? We'll be fine. Let me tell you.
Wow.
Okay. It has been the best advice. It's the first piece of advice I would offer to other parents, is to be prayerful about your decisions, to keep your faith, work your faith, because you are going to use every ounce of it. So that's number one. And number two is know that there are resources. There are resources that can help you along the journey, because I think the trick of the enemy through this process, because it's amazing. It's awesome, but it is stressful. And it's challenging, especially when you don't know what to do. So tap into your resources. The work that I do is more individualized than some of the organizations, but there are organizations for moms, for dads of professional athletes, but also, again, looking to programs like mine where you can have someone you can call directly to ask those questions. It's everything. So I would say pray. Lean on your resources, look into resources. You don't have to know it all. Ask questions. And then I would honestly tell folks, and this, I am practicing this now. I have to force myself, stop and smell the roses. To God be the glory for the opportunities that you have. And when you're in it, sometimes we don't pay attention to that. We're so busy doing, we don't have a time to appreciate being in the position that you're in. So I would say to pray, to stay on your face. And then just enjoy it.
I love it. So how can our viewers and listeners get involved with or support the initiatives of Impoweredd?
So I would say reach out to us. You can always email me directly at info@impoweredd. Now it's spelled a little different now with the I and 2 D's, like on my shirt, a little play on my name. So you can reach out that way. I'm Dr. Zanthia Reddish on LinkedIn. And I'm available on Facebook and Instagram. My company is Impoweredd with an I and 2 D's, and I'm here. I'm just as approachable as we are right now.
I
Because
love
I
it.
really want to see everyone win. I know what it's like. I've cried the tears. I still cry the tears. Let me be clear. Okay.
Right.
It's ongoing. Okay. It
Yes.
doesn't just stop because we're always parenting our children. I'm
Right.
here to support the women who are going through their transition and the principals, like you, all of us principals out there. If you need help doing the work, hey, you don't have to do that by yourself. You got support in me.
Exactly. I love it. And how long has your son been in the NBA?
So he is now going into his 6th year
Oh,
in the
wow.
NBA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
yes, God is great.
Wow. So you definitely have put the work in.
And it is. And as with everything, it required a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot
Yes.
of prayer, all those things. But it's been working out.
Awesome. I love it. I thank you so much for being a part of this show. It's been amazing. And everyone, you can also catch the full feature with Dr. Z in an upcoming a print issue of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle magazine, as well as this wonderful podcast. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Absolutely. And viewers and listeners, I want to thank you as well. Thank you for joining us on this journey to explore the depths of our guest vision and purpose. Your vision is the compass that guides you through life, and your purpose is the fuel that propels you forward. Keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep pursuing your purpose. Every step you take brings you closer to the fulfillment of that purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, and until next time, live life with vision and purpose. Thank you for joining another episode of Vision and Purpose Podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe. Please join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.